Hi everybody, I'm Steele and welcome to the first episode of This Week in the Lab. And let me explain what I'm doing in these episodes. It's a new series we're going to start. We're just going to kind of show you some stuff that's going on. Maybe there'll be a few projects going on in the video. Hopefully these will be a little bit longer. And we might show you some stuff. Like this week I've been to a flea market and a couple of stores and got some stuff cheap. We're going to show you what we've got. If we get a new tool in the lab, that'll be on this series. So with that being said, let's just jump right in and show you. Went to a flea market this weekend and got some cool stuff. I got 3 of these nice little clamps. They appear to be shop made. They have initials on JMB, and if you turn them over it says JM Brodzik. So JM Brodzik, if you're still around and out there, it looks like you made some fine tools here. If you're not and the family's watching this of Mr. J.M. Brodzik, you look like you did a good job, and we're glad to have these. Got these for $10 each. There's 3 of them. 2 of them, they're all made by the same guy. 2 of them are very similar, same thread pattern. The third one is a little different, probably made at a different time. Looks like you might have been in more of a hurry with this one. It's still a fine tool, but as you can see, the edges aren't broke. It's a coarser thread as compared to the other one. But still, all 3 fine tools. $10 each. It was a good buy. Got this little toolmaker's vise here. It has a pin that you can adjust jaw width, and then you tighten it down with a Allen wrench there. Really nice shape. Got this for $5 at the flea market. This appears to be shop made too, but there are no initials or name on this one, but whoever did this did also a great job on that. This was the last find at the flea market. Set of radius gauges. Looks like a little chart on measuring screw threads with the 3-wire method. It's kind of just stuck in there. This is a large set. And it goes from 9/16 to 1 inch. That'll be a good addition to the shop there. We have the small one that goes up to 1/2 inch, I believe. We use those a little bit. So we got that for $10. And it is made in China, but it's still a pretty good deal for $10. The second store I visited this weekend was a local little trading post store. And Tommy's been working on his Tesla coil project, and we didn't have a hole saw big enough for a part of it that he was doing through some thin hardboard. So I went and got this. I got a couple of these at my larger shop. And this is Cowhawk, which is kind of the cream of the crap. But for what we're doing, this will be great. This is an adjustable circle cutter, and it should slice through that thin hardboard pretty easy. And it kept me from bringing one of my tools that I use at my larger lab or shop here. And this was $7.99. It's cheap enough for what it is. We've had the pleasure of getting a Harbor Freight tools pretty close to us, within probably 30 minutes drive. And Harbor Freight has pretty cheap stuff. You got to kind of pick and choose what you get from Harbor Freight. I feel like some stuff's okay and some stuff's not so great. But we got one of these adjustable belts. I don't recommend using these belts all the time on a machine, but in our larger shop, most everything we use takes an A belt, and which is a 1/2 inch wide belt. And this is great in case a belt breaks and we just need to finish up a job before we can get out and buy the belt. These are $30, but that's a lot cheaper than you can order them from any other supplier that I've found. And if you've got the 20% off coupon, you can get it cheaper. And these are adjustable. You can remove links or add links. You can put 2 or 3 of these together. This is something that's always good to just have around the shop, I feel like. So we got one of those. Picked up one of these tailstock chucks for a lathe. I'm probably gonna get some more of these. The runout's minimal. I've measured the runout. It's within a few thousandths. So unless you're doing precision work, the runout on these is pretty minimal. I'm sure if you got a few of these, you'd see differences in that because they are Chinese made. But for their $15, I thought that was a pretty good deal for chuck. In fact, the chuck on this I bought one of these. We had some problems with our drill press back here. The chuck had developed a lot of run out to the point we couldn't even drill an accurate hole in wood. So I bought one of these and knocked the arbor out of it. It's a replacement chuck for our drill press back here. And it was the cheapest drill chuck I could find with a 33 Jacobs taper. And that being said, they do have a 33 Jacobs taper in the chuck and a number 2 Morse taper shank. So the last thing we got from Harbor Freight were a couple of these magnetic bases for dial indicators. And once again, this is something that kind of doesn't matter if it's cheap as long as the magnet holds. And I've tested these and the magnet holds pretty good. They have this, you just turn the magnet on and it'll clip to your machine. This multi-position arm here. It has the fine adjustment, which I'm not a huge fan of this style. I like the more maneuverable style, but we can use these for a lot of different stuff. The magnetic base is worth the $12 that I paid for this. $12. I can't even find them on eBay that cheap. And what I'm probably going to end up using these for is I have some oil drippers that need to go on the mill, or especially the lathe, but the mill too. And I will make a new shaft that will hold those. I can clip this on the cross slide and let it drip oil down on my tool bit. I think they're gonna, and I might do a video on that later, but I think these are gonna work good for that. And they were $12. That's the cheapest I found these anywhere. And I bought 2 of those, and I'll probably go back and buy some more just because they're such a good deal. Last place I went this weekend and found cheap stuff was the Home Depot. And I get this stuff a lot. I've not done a video on it, and I just happened to get some more this weekend. This is samples of mismixed paint, and they're 50 cents. You're kind of limited to what colors you get a hold of, but usually they're most of the time they're neutral colors. It kind of depends on what people in your area are painting. But like this is a kind of a grayish color. So we can use these to paint small projects with. It's good paint, it's quality paint. This is Bayer here is what I happen to get. There's some other brands they carry samples of, but if they mismix these, or if the people never come and pick them up, there's a certain time frame I think that they're allowed to come pick them up. They go into the mismix pile, which at least at my local Home Depot they have, and these are 50 cents. Which is I got 4 of them, $2.14. Our tax is 7 cents on the dollar here, and it's a great deal. There's enough paint in here. I think there's 8 fluid ounces in here. And it's usually enough to do a couple of projects that we do, small stuff around the shop. So that's my last good deal for the day. So we'll get into doing some work on something here in a little while. Well, last year, me and Tommy went to an automotive swap meet, and Tommy found this little 5-inch bench grinder. It's kind of a cheapo. It's a Sun-X, and it is a little 5-inch deal. We've got an old bench grinder over there, which also happens to be a 5-inch that we use a lot. And we've got a fine grinding stone on it and a wire wheel on that one. But I think what we're going to do, if we can get this one working, is put a small buffing wheel on that one with the wire wheel and do a coarse and fine stone on this one. But we don't even know if this works. We paid $5, or he paid $5 for it. But you can tell it's pretty rough. It's missing a foot here, which we will probably eliminate these anyway because we always bolt these directly down, so we don't need these rubber feet. They're kind of on there to keep it from walking around if you don't bolt it down, which I don't recommend not bolting these down. The tables are gone off of it. There's no eye protection, and I know a lot of you out there take the eye protection off, but if you ever get a spark in your eye, they actually have to take a tiny little Dremel and get it out. So if it's a piece of metal that ends up in your eye, that is not fun. It's happened to me, and it's actually happened to me with safety glasses on. So I do recommend to have some shields on these, which we will make. These little pieces are nice. They go down and almost touch the stone, and it keeps sparks from flying out. And so those will probably straighten and retain if we can get this thing working. We're not even sure if it works or not, but it's not a bad deal. Another thing I've noticed, this is pretty common. I found on older tools. A lot of people don't realize the necessity for earth ground on these, and a lot of older houses in my area had the old 2-prong outlets still, and no one ever replaced them with the safety earth ground outlets. So you see this a lot. This is my point. You'll see that broken off where you can plug it in, or plug it into an old 2-prong extension cord. And I don't recommend doing that. That's just not real safe. So what we've done, we went to our bin of wires, and we've got a cord we've taken off of something, a good cord that's got the safety ground still intact, and we're going to replace the cord on this with this cord we've got. Always keep a few of these in a scrap bin somewhere. They'll be useful when you find tools or just making stuff. This one also looks like it's had some rats chew on it or something. They've taped it up. But first thing we're gonna do is open up the bottom here and look at the condition of the wiring in it, and then we will proceed to test, make sure nothing's grounded to the case or anything before we plug it in, and try to run this thing to see if it's even working. On this particular type of tool, we'll check in here for obstructions. Make sure there's nothing like that. That thing's kind of loose, and you can hear it was touching that. We don't want to start it up if anything's obstructed that could fly out or hit one of us or anything. So I'm gonna take this bottom off and do a little testing with our multimeter, and then when we come back, I'll plug it in and see if it works. Okay, so we've taken the bottom off our grinder here, and everything looks pretty good in here at first inspection. We've got a little dirt here, a little bit of corrosion on some of these terminals. We'll replace those. This capacitor is just kind of flapping around in the breeze there. We'll have to probably cut a little piece of rubber or something to put inside this clamp to help hold that. It's probably not going to be an issue, but there's no reason for it to be moving around. This thing's going to be under a lot of vibration when it's running. We've tested everything to make sure there's no faults to the case, and we found that there's not. We've checked for obstructions, got our switch turned off, and I want to throw this in there. When you take something apart, put all your screws and stuff in a little container, at least in a tray, even if it don't have a lid. Because if you just lay stuff on the table, you're inevitably going to knock it off. It's going to happen eventually. It might not happen for a long time, but it's going to happen, and you will be cussing when it does, because you'll lose that one screw that you don't have another one up. I like these little sandwich containers, or they're little containers that sandwich meat comes in. It's a byproduct of buying sandwich lunch meat. They got a top on them. It don't matter if you knock this off the table, you're just going to pick this up, and you can set it aside while you're working. So enough about that. Let's see if this thing works. So we've got a power strip back here that's got a circuit breaker in it if it overloads. So we're going to plug it into that. We got our safety glasses on. We did check, make sure the switch was off before we plugged it in. Nothing. Seems to work pretty good. Pretty quiet, pretty smooth. Got a little bit of a rattle sound. I think that's probably some of this stuff here. But you know, even if this thing, if we can get a year out of this for $5, we're still doing good. I think it's going to be a good little machine. We got a lot of work to do on this Steele. Unplug it there. We're going to have a lot of cleaning to do. I'll have to go to the bigger shop where we've got our welder, and we'll make new tables for it. And then we'll make some shields for the top out of, I'm just going to use acrylic sheet, which should be fine for this. Acrylic will shatter, or it'll break if something hits it hard. So, but for this, you're really just keeping sparks out, and most of the time the professional made ones are acrylic sheet too, so we'll just cut some of that. We have a lot of that laying around. We'll cut that and keep sparks out of your eye, like I talked about before. One thing I want to talk about with this is if you look at this wheel, I hope you can see that this thing is just it's called loading. is someone's ground aluminum with this, which you really shouldn't use a grinder to grind soft metals like aluminum or brass. You should use a belt sander for that, abrasive belt sander, and because it loads the wheel. And these can fly out and hit you, and it reduces the effectiveness of the wheel. These wheels have not been properly dressed either. They're rounded, they've got the grooves cut in them. Someone was just using this kind of hacking around, didn't really know the proper etiquette for a bench grinder like this. So we're gonna see this wheel. I think we're probably gonna toss. The edge has been used a lot. It's really dished. That can cause the wheel to become unstable and actually break apart. You really shouldn't use the sides of these wheels. I've seen a lot of people doing it, and it's real tempting because you got a nice flat wide surface to come over here and use the edge of the wheel. But it really wears the wheel in, and it can shatter and fly apart. And that's the last thing you want happening, is that to fly apart. And you see this side's loaded up with some real heavy rust, where they've ground something really scaly with rust and let it load up, and they didn't dress this back out. But just be aware of that. Keep your wheels dressed with the dressing stone, and you'll get a lot more life out of them. You'll get a better grind on whatever you're doing. So we'll get this thing, we'll get the new wire on it, we'll get everything cleaned up and all the parts made for it, and hopefully in this episode, if not, stay tuned in one of our other episodes, and we'll show you what the finished product looks like and show us using it maybe. But I think this is going to work good for us. So Kilo brought this to me the other day. This is going to be a nice little container for a tool, and it's nice leather, but it's old and it's getting kind of cracked and brittle. It's dried out, not been conditioned very well. We're going to recondition this and hopefully save it. The latch here works good. It's a little rusty, but I'm going to leave that just kind of to show the vintage feel of it. But let's recondition this a little bit and get it back where we don't have to worry about this cracking and breaking. So we're going to go to our leather kit here. First thing I'm going to use is neat's foot compound on some of the more dried out areas and some of the more cracked areas. So we got an old t-shirt here, and I'm just going to cut off a piece of this here, hopefully. This is 100% cotton. It's just what I like to use. You can use almost anything for this. This stuff's very watery, and I'm sure I'm going to spill some on the table before this is over. Just going to get a little bit on there. We've cleaned this beforehand too, and this will darken the leather a little bit, but that doesn't really bother me. If it bothers you, there's I'm sure an alternative. But we want to work that neat's foot compound into all those really dry areas. And the reason I like to use this first is it is thinner and it tends to work in a lot quicker into the really dried out areas. You want to use this on smooth leather. You don't want to use this on suede or anything. But we're just gonna work that in really good to those really dried out areas, some of the edges. Work that in really good. You can see it soaking in and darkening the leather. And that's what we want. We want to replace those natural oils that have come out of the leather over time. When leather's tanned, it actually loses a lot of its natural oil, and that'll cause it to crack and get brittle. And if you don't attend to this, it'll actually break into pieces over time. And it is a natural product. It is going to deteriorate. The back's actually still really good. We got some cracking up here, and you'll see this cracking like this where a piece has been used, where it bends and dries out. So we want to work that in really good there. And you can see it darkening, and that's okay, or it is for me. Just kind of shows its age when it does that. Has the antique look. We're going to work that in. Just keep working that in. flex it a little bit, make sure it's down in those cracks. Put in the edges really good. Alright, now you can see it's starting to already dry out again. And it's soaking in, but it's soaking in really deep. We're going to come back over that. Work that in. I know this is not what you're used to seeing on our channel, but this is, you know, just stuff that happens around the lab, everyday stuff. It's not all electronics and rockets going off, but hopefully this will interest you too. I mean, our channel is devoted to makers and science and pretty much anything that you could want to do. Got that worked in pretty good. Close that up. Now we're going to switch. I like this stuff pretty good. This is mink oil. Bristle in there. And I'll come back to my t-shirt. Cut off another piece here. So this is kind of a messy project. You don't want to wear really good clothes when you're doing this, but that's typical with most projects you're doing. This mink oil. This is thicker. We'll start rubbing that in. And this will soak in too, but it soaks in a lot less than the Neat's Foot compound. And there's several brands of this stuff. You can find it anywhere. I think this you can even get it at the Walmart. Any place that sells shoes usually carries this type of stuff. Quality shoes. Keep working that in. You can see it's developing kind of a sheen, and that's part of the byproduct of this mink oil. And this one's pretty bad dried out, so we'll have to do this several times. This is just the first run, so just to give you the idea. I've learned over the years I really like working with leather, new and old. Just keep working that in. And something that's dried out and cracked this bad will take several versions, several trials, if you will. We'll have to do this a couple more times to get it. And I usually wait a day and then come back and do it again, give it time to soak in. There has been pieces like this that I've spent a couple weeks on getting it back in order, but it's a really nice antique product when you're done. I don't actually think this one's all that old, but it's still pretty nice. You can see there, and if you want to, with this mink oil, you can even take a brush after you're done and give it kind of a finish. Now if you're looking, I like this antique look myself, but if you're looking for a certain color, you can use a shoe polish on this. Kiwi actually makes a pretty good polish. This is a brown. It comes in several colors. You can certainly re-dye this, but you have to strip all the oils out of it to re-dye it. You basically just keep doing that, and you'll end up with a very supple, serviceable unit like this. We're going to use this to put some sort of tool in. It's actually got a belt clip. It's pretty nice. Well, we're here at the weekly meeting, and circuit breaker's over there breaking stuff, hence the name circuit breaker. What are you working on, Kilo?
Trying to get this two-wheel drive Arduino robot to run off of Bluetooth. And right now I'm just doing the wiring. And next will be the code.
Tommy, what do you got? I heard you banging around over here.
Just having a little writer's block. Been trying to figure out how to mount the capacitors on this for weeks now.
And this is the start of your capacitor for this is the Tesla coil project Tommy's been working on, by the way. And this is one of the capacitors he's working on. Tommy really likes this drink.
There.
Well, let's hope this works, Tommy. This one has a really odd cutter compared to the ones I've used before. I think we should probably just put it in the drill press, dude.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't think you'll ever hold that. I've never used one of those and
What the hell? Sorry. We're not going to be able to do this, man. Like, I can't not cuss. I mean, I can try, but... Are you sure that it's not supposed to go this way?
it goes that way if you want the... If you want
Okay.
this... You gotta hold on to it. If you want this to be your good side, you turn the flat out. You gotta really crank down on that thing to get it to stay. I'll let you go ahead and set that up. We'll go drill it when you get that fast.
Stop it!
There's a switch there, you just switch it off. It lost Bluetooth connections.
Well, that was a runaway condition. That is the man's cell phone he's controlling this with.
It's a lot of
Yeah, you're gonna have to really watch.
Much better. I'll knock myself out with that thing.
Yeah, this has all the
That's a
potential
good
to be extreme dangerous. There's not any good way to clamp that with the stuff we have here. Let's just hope.
Alright, I'm just going to try and keep my fingers out of the way.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be a slow cut though. It worked the time I used it.
Hang on a second.
It's not an ideal tool for this, I don't think.
Am I going to hit anything whenever I'm here? Probably.
Yeah. And now for something completely different.
This is where everybody makes fun of us in the comment section.
Probably.
What the heck are you guys doing?
Yeah, well, at least they're watching it, I guess. Feel free to make fun of us in the comments section over this, by the way. We have used this tool before. Well, one like this tool. Just not this one. This is the Super El Cheapo that I bought this week.
Alright, that's just not going to work.
We will be back, folks. Tommy's nervous face.
I feel like it's going a little fast.
This is the slowest speed on this small drill press, unfortunately.
In a second now.
The suspense.
I don't know if there's a possibility of this hitting.
I think it's just this flaring up back here on you. I don't think that's going to hit this.
Okay. Good. Kind of nervous, thinking about what's going to happen when this finally separates.
When I
Is it just
used
gonna,
it,
like, fly out of the
no, when I used it the other day, it was pretty gentle when it separated. It just popped out, but it does kind of burn through, like circuit breaker said. You can smell it. You see how it cuts with the blade, but it's not a true trepanning tool. And there you have it. And Tommy figured out a way to let the magic smoke out of wood. It's not just electrical components, people. And there goes the magic smoke. It's a secret ingredient to everything. This is our Arduino Slave computer that we use exclusively to program the Arduinos. And this is the code Kilo's working on for the robot you saw a while ago. Well, I say he's working on it. He's done with it. It's working pretty good. He's been driving this thing around in the lab here. I'm gonna start working on some shelves for this little area here. We set this up to put stock on, and as you can see, it's just all mixed up. I want to put another shelf in here so we can separate this. I mean, we got plastic, there's brass, some aluminum and stuff in here. It'd be nice to separate all this out and take advantage of this wasted space we got here. So we're going to cut a couple pieces of wood and put across here and then install another shelf, I believe.
Let's see. Yeah.
Here's the snack of the night. There's the cook of the night. Circuit breaker doing what he does second best. And we're about to get some sawdust in that pizza for extra roughage.
It's already got sawdust. This pizza has cellulose and also L-cysteines in it.
Alright, sorry about the noise, guys. Actually, where's the safety glasses?
If you run that saw without power, Tommy, you'll burn the motor up.
Yeah, it's like
Where
a
are the safety glasses?
it's like a pump without fluid going through it, dude.
They're over there on the milling toolbox,
Oh, yeah.
machinist toolbox.
Okay.
You can see, move it with your hand, put some supports in there, because a lot of
for me. But I would like to be able.
To work the camera.
No.
The curve of that blade is going to give me what I need. I need to take a little bit of line. Get some safety glasses instead of these goggles. I like these things, but not for this. Just get some actual safety glasses down here. Just try to avoid cutting the cord.